I was speaking at Arundel one day a few years ago about the history of the county championship, and in the audience was Hubert Doggett.
All right.
And at some point in the conversation, he kept interrupting, actually. He kept coming in with remarks, which was wonderful. It added to the liveliness of it. And at some point, I took it upon me to say to him that he was now the second oldest living England cricketer. And he said, no, the third. I said, the second. He said, no, the third. First is Don Smith. Second is Fred Ridgway. I'm third. I said, well, Fred Ridgway has died. He said, no, Don Smith, Fred Ridgway, then me. I said, no, Fred Ridgway has died. Oh, Fred Ridgway died. Oh, good-o, he said.
I thought you were about to say, no one told me.
Close.
Right, well, here are the results. While we're looking at those, I'm going to hand over to Chris Coke to ask the first question.
Right. Can you hear me okay?
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay. What I was going to ask was about writing about a cricketer who is still playing, because the first book I ever bought from Pat Murphy was his book on Ian Botham. And Ian Botham was still playing, I believe, for England at the time he wrote the book. So what's the challenge about writing about somebody who's still playing?
This was the biography of Ian Botham, wasn't it, Chris?
Yeah.
I think it was imaginatively titled Botham, a biography. I'll tell you what the major problem about that was. Ian broke his back in publication week. And as a consequence, he disappeared off the face of the earth. So not much could be done. I'm just pressing close, sorry. Not much could be done in terms of pushing it. I was right up to the wire on that one as well. I was pleased because I went out to Australia to see him when he was playing for Queensland, 87, 88 winter. And I was on the Botham Walk with those elephants from Perpignan to Turin, God, in April 1988. And I did a program on it, Botham and the Elephants, called Botham Packs His Trunk. Hope you like that one. Or Radio 4. So that was in April. So I was bang up to date. And then his back went in May, and he didn't play again for the rest of the year. So that rather took the sales out of the book in sales as well, SAILS and SALES. So the warning from me is always just hope that your subject is alive and well and continues to prosper during that period. I got lucky with Graham Gooch in 1980 because I did a book with Graham Gooch on batting, an instructional book. And Graham, young, modest, but dry sense of humor, only 26, had just about started playing for England. So, well, to be quite honest, Pat, I've only got a couple of thoughts on batting. One is if you hit the ball as hard as you can and you've got to have confidence in your own ability. Do you think we can get 60,000 words out of that? Do my best. There's always the greatest batsman, the greatest bowlers. And that came out in the week that Graham scored his magnificent first Test match 100 against Clive Lloyd's West Indies at Lord's in 1980. So sales went well that week of Graham Gooch's first book. It's all about timing, as David Gow would often say after he caressed yet another 100.
Thank you. So now I'm going to ask another Chris. I think you've unmuted yourself. Chris, if you could ask your question, please.
Thank you. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can.
Pat, firstly, a terrific hour, very entertaining, as always. Thank you for that. Secondly, my question, I believe you used to lead a BBC team, and near Cheltenham, where I come from, is a cricket ground at Sheepscombe, where I believe you used to play.
My favourite ground.
That was my question. Is it your favourite and most unusual ground? And if not, where would it be?
I don't know where to begin discussing Sheepscombe. It's my favourite ground. Sadly, my romantic, idealistic, emotional commitment with Sheepscombe wasn't always shared by my teammates who used to schlep down from Birmingham and South Birmingham then, and they couldn't quite understand how why it touched me so much. They bleat on about the fact that the showers were cold. and the fact that it was up a steep hill. I say, for God's sake, look around you. You can't hear the internal combustion engine. Look at hear those swallows over there. Listen to the susurration of the trees. Imagine Laurie Lee is sat here. Like, he came up one day, Laurie Lee, because it's the Laurie Lee ground, as you know. Yep. We stopped playing them a few years back after about 20 odd years, much to my sadness. Absolutely loved it. I remember Bob Willis played there one day for me in his retirement. Bob and I and our respective families, we've been down in Larne, South Wales, and Bob and I drove up to play that day. Bob saw the point of it, so he thought it was wonderful, but we got into the Butcher's Arms having a few bevies before the game started. Beautiful day, by the way. Tossed the coin. I won the toss and decided to bat, which meant that Bob and I could stay in the Butcher's Arms having another pint, because it was always a decent batting wicket. But they neglected to tell us, Sheepscombe, that it rained cats and dogs that morning and the pitch was wet. We turned up and we're 40 for 7. Bob goes into bat, gets hit on the head, first over, vowed never to play again. I hit a long hop straight down deep square leg throat, second ball for naught. We're all at 69. We lose by 9 wickets by 4 o'clock. And the pub wasn't open. So Bob and I made our way down to Larne, me feeling extremely rueful about not doing enough research, and Bob saying, Murph, that's the last time I'm ever going to play cricket. No one's ever hit me on the head before. I've got a couple of sheeps coming, I get hit on the head.
Here we are.
That village cricket. Now that is Pot Shrigley, Stephen, in Cheshire, but Sheepscombe is in there. Well done.
I'm all prepared here.
Baden Powell, we should be calling you. That book came out.
My memory of playing at Sheepscombe is there were places you could field where you couldn't see the square. You'd be down at some corner and you couldn't see the batsman or the bowler.
One of our bowlers, lovely man, Cliff, Jamaican, not necessarily imbued with the soul and the romanticism of an English mediocre village cricketer. He liked good pitches, fast pitches, and good showers. And we sent Cliff down there to long on and third man, and he barely saw a ball all afternoon. So I'm never playing here again. But that ground, I thought that was just a fabulous ground. It threatened your exhaust when you're driving up that steep hill to park the car, but I just love Sheepscombe. But I was in the minority eventually. My dictate only extended for about 30 years before there was a palace revolution and they decided not to play at Sheepscombe anymore.
Oh,
lovely.
No soul.
I've got the next question.
Yep.
So Tim, I think you're unmuted. Please ask your question.
Hello, Pat. Can you hear me?
Yes, Tim. Hello there.
Hi. Thanks for a very entertaining hour. Just thinking about the future now, can you share your thoughts with us about the ECB and their stewardship of the county game, particularly in light of their desire to promote the 100?
I'm dead against 100. I don't see that there's much of a difference. Well, there is a factual difference of 16 balls between the 100 and T20. T20 worked fine. I was all for it in 2003, so I don't want to be nailed as a dinosaur because I thought T20 2003 perfect. Supporter of it all the way through, have been. I don't think it's distinctive enough. It's not standalone enough. A 20 over a side game is different from a 40 over a side game, as is distinct from a 50 over a side game. But I don't see that 16.4 overs is all that different from 20 overs. So there's that. I also believe it's the thin end of the wedge in terms of getting rid of some counties. I fear there's going to be the death knell for some counties, which I'm dead against. I don't believe it's going to help the development of Test cricketers. I don't believe it's going to help the development of T20 cricketers because you've got T20 now already as it is. And I think it's licensed to print money. And they bang on about it being free to air. Well, it's not really free to air. There's a few games that are going to be on the BBC, the 100, but not an overwhelming amount. Sky aren't going to relent their grip that much. So I think there's a bit of a marketing illusion going on here. And I don't believe that, I know they're going to say, particularly in the event of the pandemic, it's going to save the game, the English game, or they would say that, would they? wouldn't they? But this was set in stone several years before the pandemic started. So I don't believe they can appropriate that justification from the last 6 months into a decision that was made, say, 3 years ago. Nice try, but we're not stupid. I think the Bob Willis Trophy, much deserved, by the way. Dear old friend of mine, did several books with. Very pleased that he's been recognised. I can see why that would catch on. I can see that might work somewhere. The knockout aspect of it was appreciated. I believe the ECB did very, very well in the last few months in all facets. But don't let them tell you that the 100 is riding shotgun to the rescue because they've been offering that excuse for the last 3 years. Is that enough?
That's fine. Yes, thanks, Pat. I completely agree. I think it's a real threat to the county championship, and
it's a marketing exercise. And when the people with the brightly coloured red braces start pinging away and running things up the flagpole, I count the spoons and head for the hills.
Great, thank you very much. I've got
I'm just going to ask Pat a question.
Oh my God!
Who wrote in which book? Who wrote the following? Money is of course very important, but if the game is not right, I do not, for one, believe the public will support it indefinitely.
I hope it was me, but I suspect there's somebody a lot more illustrious that I've quoted, Stephen.
It's the foreword to The Spinner's Turn by Gubby Allen.
Oh, well done. So that was written in winter 81, 2.
3, yes,
Oh.
83.
Oh, right.
82, yeah.
Excellent. Well, there we are then. That's about one of the rare occasions when Gubby Allen and I have reached unanimity. Apart from the sad dearth of spin bowling.
And I've got a question now from Barry Cox. Barry, can you unmute yourself? If not, I'm going to read Barry's question out, which he's...
Come on, Baz. Press the button, Baz. Has he pressed the button?
I don't think he has. So I'm going to read it out to you. This is his email. Do you have any reminiscences of Eric Hollies? That's Barry, saw him score his high score of 47 in 1954 against Sussex at Edgbaston. And Barry thinks he's possibly the only Cricket Society member watching today who would have seen that. He says, I live in London, but still feel home is Edgbaston. So Eric Hollies.
First of all, Eric retired in 1957, and I would not have been old enough to have seen Eric play, but I tracked him down at Old Hill Cricket Club in the Black Country for that Spinner's Turn book that Stephen so graciously mentioned. He was fantastic. Wonderful, twinkly anecdotes with that lovely Black Country accent. And Bradman, I quizzed him about Bradman because he didn't spot the googly the week before playing against Warwickshire before the final test match. Tom Dollery also noticed it. And Tom said, keep it up your sleeve for the Oval, which he duly did so. And as you know, bowled him second ball with a googly. And I said to Eric, I suspected what the answer was going to be, because you don't bowl all those thousands of overs for Warwickshire on perfect pitches, carrying the attack more or less on your shoulders if you don't have a rather mordant sense of humour. And I said, why did you feel that you robbed him of his chance of a career test match average of 100? Blah, he said. So we not sentimental. Yeah, joking. I got Bradman out and I diddled him because he didn't spot it the week before. I said, well, do you think Bradman was emotionally affected then by Norman Yardley calling for 3 cheers? And he came, you said, yeah, joking. He said that so-and-so was never emotional about anything apart from earning a bob or two. Lovely stuff from Eric. It was great talking to these old players, because you soon stripped yourself of the veneer of sentimentality. These gnarled old pros who used to be told what to do by the amateurs who turn up from prep school for about 3 weeks and stay in the best only allowed to play the cover drive now and again, and complained about the short pitch deliveries, but they were never seen at Scarborough in the middle of September on the wet one. And these old pros, I love talking to them because they soon punctured any romanticized notions I had about the professional game.
If I can chip in one little line from Tom Cartwright, one of his memories of Eric Hollies, talking probably about Tom Dollery and people in the Warwickshire team who took every opportunity to meet up with ladies of the other sex. And when they were on the road, Eric Hollies said to Tom one day, "Me, I'm a one dog, one bone man."
Well, on that one, I think very good, Stephen.
See that tone? It's just been lowered even further.
I'm going to move swiftly on, as they say, and I'm going to ask James Thompson, who I've unmuted, to ask his question, please.
Yes, thank you very much indeed. Can I just say, first of all, thank you very much. It's been gripping and a wonderful, wonderful hour and something.
You're easily pleased, James. You're easily pleased. Thank you.
Yeah, simple, so I am, yeah. Pat, we've been talking about your books, and of course, Stephen has been responsible for an absolutely wonderful, wonderful publishing some fantastic books.
Agreed.
I want to know about you. What do you? I can see lots of wisdoms behind you. Are you an avid reader of cricket books, of sports books, any other books?
I used to be, Jim. I found myself thinking eventually there's more than one way to stuff a mushroom, and I quite like to smell the roses a little bit more than I used to when I'd be sailing before the mast of the SS Productivity. Bother so much now. I prefer to read newspapers and fairly
journalist, didn't you?
Fairly serious magazine. Yes, I'm a massive supporter of the printed word, and I still buy my newspapers every day, and I'm gripped by them. I love the actual physical feel of picking up a newspaper. And there's so much going on in the world now that needs all our attention. He says sonorously and hopefully not too pompously. But yeah, with respect to people who write sports books, there are one or two others I will get, and I will read, of course. But I tend to read other things now as much as I can. As C.L.R. James once said, "What do they know of cricket who only cricket know?" So I try to get away from being slavishly connected to cricket books. I'm now working at the moment on, I hope, will be a book that will give me a great deal of pride. It's a history of sports report, the program that began in January 1948. The famous signature tune, yep, Out of the Blue by the band of the Grenadier Guards. So I'm working on that. I've worked on that program for 39 years. Yeah. So I'm interviewing endless people about that.
I've listened to you quite a lot of those days over 39 years too.
Okay. Well, thank you. Perhaps you might buy the book then if it comes out.
Yeah, sure. No problem.
Do you know who the first football reporter was on January the 3rd, I think it was, 1948, the first program, one John Arlott. He was also a football reporter for The Guardian, and he did the first football report in Sports Report's 73-and-a-half-year history.
Yes, yeah. People forget that Arlott was a big footy fan.
Yeah, until he got
mugged.
As
a poet and producer and so on, and a copper.
And a candidate for the Liberal Party. He got mugged. He got mugged on the tube in London, and that finished him off covering football. But that's my next project, which I hope will persuade the publisher to go for it. I'm at that hiatus period at the moment, so we'll see. But that's what I'm working on, and that's broadening me away from cricket books. I've done some football books. I did the biography of Brian Clough, which I enjoyed enormously. So I'd hate to be categorized as a one-trick pony.
Yeah, well, listen, thanks again, not only for this, but for everything else. Been a pleasure.
That's very kind of you. I call broadcasting organized loafing, really. We're in the hammock philosophizing and using.
We like a good loafer, Pat. We like a good loafer.
That's very kind of you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Enjoy the loafing. So I think those are all the questions.
Well, I've got. I'll ask a question.
He's back.
Before, if you like.
Yeah,
Like the poor, he's always with us.
So one more question from Stephen, and then I'm going to hand over to Chris Coke to say a vote of thanks. So Stephen, back to you.
Well, the Centurions was about. Hello, Pat.
Yes, I'm with you, Stephen.
Oh, here we are.
I'm with
The
you.
Centurions, 25 greatest batsmen. I know it was a statistical thing and so forth. Is there an equivalent you could do for bowling? Forget the statistics. 20 great bowlers. Do you ever have a yen to do that? They don't get the attention batsmen to get, do they?
Very good point. And I'm not sure what yardstick you'd use for bowlers, because you see, if I offered SF Barnes, modern people would say, well, what about Jimmy Anderson? What about Stuart Broad? And I'd be sitting there thinking, well, I don't want to denigrate them for a moment. I think the ability to get wickets all over the world is crucial.
What about just the 20 greatest bowlers? You make them up.
Well, that is not backed up by facts, though, you see, whereas the hundreds, you've got statistics to back you up, i.e. they've achieved it. If you're looking for the 20 greatest bowlers, it'd be Murali all the way down, wouldn't it, to argument's sake? I don't know, Glenn McGrath. Does that mean that they are the greatest bowlers? I don't know. It's a difficult one. To be frank, Stephen, at this particular stage of my flagging career, I'm not sure I'd have the energy to go into the kind of research I did for the Centurions. I haven't got the violin here out now, but I have to tell you that you've got to be at it. And consistently, the Sports Report book for the moment is going to take up a lot of my time research. I've done 82 interviews already, and I hope I'm going to be doing more than 100. I'm not sure that bowlers are as glamorous as batsmen. People would remember Brian Lara unfairly before Andy Roberts or Malcolm Marshall, great bowlers though they were. And I mean great bowlers too. Shane Warne is glamorous enough. I get that. Fred Truman is what stroke was. It's not as dazzling an array of batsmen, is it?
No, I know what you mean.
I'd need to be persuaded about the merits of doing that. Years ago, after the spinner's turn, at that time, not many bowlers had got 200 test match wickets. I submitted a proposal for the 200 club, and there weren't many of them. Let's say at that time, there'd be about 25. Now, how many bowlers have taken 200 test match wickets? 70, 80? I don't know.
Someone will know out there.
Yeah, but I think they were right. I think they were right to reject it because they said that they said it was too fast moving a concept. Because by the time the book came out, more would have reached 200, and you wouldn't be able to get a standalone feeling. Because the point about the 100 hundreds was Ramprakash getting it in 2009. Nobody else will do it again because of the paucity of first-class cricket, T20 and everything else. You're not going to get first-class hundreds scored in great profusion. Justin Langer fell short about 88, because at that time, Stephen will tell you, he and I were a bit worried about Langer, thinking, "Oh, is he going to stuff us?" Because we thought Ramprakash fine. It's nice to have 25. We don't want 26. So Langer can get out a bit more. As events turn out, our prayers were answered, weren't they, Stephen?
Yes, they were. Yeah.
That's a rather circumlocutory way of saying, I'm not sure, but if somebody else fancies taking it on, good luck. It won't be me. Anybody else want to say anything?
I'm gonna hand over to Chris Coke to propose the vote of thanks.
Well, it's been an absolute fascinating hour. And I think, because you are two of my favorite authors, I think that what joins the two of you together, Stephen and Pat, is both of you believe that the past informs the present. And that is absolutely tremendous. So I'd like to thank you so much for such an enjoyable time. Thank you.
Old fogies like us are bound to say that, they won't. Thank you. Thank you. I've enjoyed it.